Okay, it's 5 p.m. Call to order. The governing board meeting was called to order at 5 p.m. Sorry. 5 p.m. Let's please stand for the flag salute. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call. Let the record reflect that all board members are present, except for Mrs. Strada, not here yet, and all admin is present. Approval of agenda. It is recommended that the governing board approve the agenda of the June 10th, 2024 governing board meeting. Do I have a motion?
A motion.
Thank you, Ms. Shed.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Fruto. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, and I'm an aye. Motion carries 4-0. Approval of minutes. Approval of the May 13th, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Chong,
I'll second.
Mr. Frutos, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 4-0. Governing board comments. We'll start with you, Mr. Chong.
Good evening and happy first meeting since school is out. It's kind of weird because we have nobody in the audience anymore, not nobody's. We have our important staff and everything, but no presentations. Everyone here is very valuable and important. No. No, yes, no school reports or anything, but yeah, I hope everyone gets to somewhat rest and plan now with calm and peace and actual time to do that. I have nothing much to report. I know we were able to host our Fulton School District. We were able to host Buena Park School District for a PD regarding AI and Korean culture within K-pop and stuff. And Dr. Cantu, Aaron McPhillips, Dr. Lee, Gil Kim, they were all able to come and show their Buena Park pride, dancing and singing and learning about AI. It was really great. It's good to have my two worlds collide and see kind of the power of both local districts. So I wish more people could have experienced it, but I know we can do more stuff with collaboratively with our districts at the same time, what we learn and bringing our Buena Park flair is a great opportunity. So that was really good. I wanted to report that because it was something unique. I look forward to being able to try to go visit. I know Leslie Milch's reading in the park going on and a lot of other things that we have going around our district. SOARs, we have a lot of different things. So good luck to everyone planning and attending those, and stay cool now because it's going to get probably really hot, and I hope everyone enjoys that till our next meeting. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Shed.
Okay, thank you. On 5/14, I participated in the Buena Park Learning Center self-evaluation, and they did quite well, so I was proud of them. That afternoon, I enjoyed the classified retirement recognition, and there was lots of fun, food, and lots of prizes. So what a fun event. On 5/16, the culminating activity of the Ambassadors Retreat was here, and there was noticeable growth in the students, and it was so good to see. And I'm looking forward to the first meeting in the fall. That afternoon, the certificated had their retirement, and there was a personal tribute for each one, and it was made by their colleagues. It was so, what can I say? It was great learning so much about them as people and not just teachers. And you can see the love and care that their colleagues put into it, and their family members too. On 5/17 through the 19th, I participated in the Delegate Assembly in Sacramento, where school board members from the entire state collaborated to set policy. And on 5/23, we had the employee recognition afternoon for both a classified and certificate, and that was a very nice event. On 5/29, I went to the Beatty Middle School promotion of the 8th graders. I am so proud of them. They're so mature and ready for high school, and so it was great to be part of that. And then that week, I also went to preschool promotions which I haven't done before. And so I went to Corey, Whitaker, Pendleton, and the Winter Park Learning Center. And it was good to see what our little ones can do. Very interesting and exciting to know what, we'll be looking forward to. And this Saturday, I went to a rally by Assemblywoman Sharon Quirk-Sullivan. She had a anti-gun violence rally at the Winter Park City Hall. And it was well attended, and everybody wore orange. And so I'm wearing my orange just to carry that through for the weekend. And that's my report.
Thank you, Ms. Shedd. Let the record reflect that Mrs. Strata is here. I'll give you a moment to catch your breath before I have you do your comment. And we'll go to Mr. Frutos.
Hello, good evening, everyone. It is kind of eerie without students in here, but I'm glad we have important staff on hand. But I just want to take a moment and just with gratitude and just thank everybody across the district for all the work that they've done. There's been tremendous growth around our district, from our students to our certificated to our classified and leadership. I've seen a lot of growth in every aspect of our district. So I just want to take a moment to thank everybody. Also want to thank all of our governing board for all the work that they've done throughout the school year. Dr. Lee, completing her first year too as well. So, we're getting there. Ms. McPhillips, thank you for everything that you do
Yes.
for our board. But, it's just, it's been a great year. There's a lot to be thankful for. There's a lot of accomplishments. Our FFA chapter at the middle schools, Pendleton being Special Olympics, site. So there's just so much to be thankful for. But all in all, I just want to thank everybody. The students did an amazing job throughout the whole school year. I was able to attend Pendleton's promotion. That was very nice. Also was able to attend Corey's award ceremony before the end of the school year. In a couple of weeks, I'll be at Whitaker seeing the after school program at the Source program with ACES. But that's very brief for me. I think Mrs. Shedd covered a lot of what has happened around the district. And again, just thank you for everything that you've done throughout the school year. And I look forward to next school year. So with that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Frutos. Are you ready, Mr.
Yeah,
Strata?
ready, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I just wanted to say really thank you to all the staff, parents, students, really amazing board, amazing Dr. Lee. Thank you, Aaron, and our amazing cabinet as well. And we couldn't really do it without you guys, honestly, and the students for putting the work every day and really showing up and just, I know they're all really excited already and some of them are probably already on vacation, which is really fun. But congratulations just to all of our promoting students, whether it be from a big jump from junior high to high school, or even just within a grade level. It really is such a big honor just to be able, just to see you guys kind of grow and just move on to the next phases of your lives and just become the leaders of tomorrow, honestly. And thank you to all our board members, especially Ms. Shedd, just for being able to be present and kind of represent our boards of all the events that you go to. You really are the heart of the district. Thank you. And I just wanted to keep it short and brief. Sorry, I sound a little out of breath, but thank you just to everyone, just for your effort and just for just being here every day. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Thank you. For me, I want to welcome everyone in the audience, our VIPs that are in the audience. I'm gonna make up for that, Jason. It really is just great seeing you all here, to be honest. I know it's summer and I want to thank our employees that are here year round and don't have that, summer break that, our kids and some of our staff do. So without you guys, I don't know what we would do. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I spent May, it was a crazy month of just all of our celebrations. I think there was a celebration every single day and I tried to attend as much as I could. I loved all of them. I went to the BPTA retirement event, CSCA end of the year event, our district's employee recognition. I was able to attend both promotions for our middle schools, and there was just a lot happening at all of our schools, and it's amazing to see it all. And I just want to give a shout out to Kate on our social media. So when I'm not able to attend an event, I feel like she does a good job at making you feel like you did, taking great pictures and just, to be honest, it just, makes it feel like there's something happening every day and it shows on our social media. So I wanted to give a shout out to her for that. I want to thank our SOARS and summer school programs that are happening right now. I know maintenance is having a lot of work done already this month, and our nutrition is still going. I mean, I want to thank everyone that's still working and doing a great job this summer. That's it for me. Dr. Lee.
Yes. I'll keep my update short and sweet as well. Good evening, President Ahmad, Governing Board of Trustees, Cabinet, as well as our important audience. I would like to thank everyone for a successful end of the school year. The promotion ceremonies were beautifully planned and executed. So I want to thank the staff and I want to thank the district for your support in making all these promotion ceremonies a once in a lifetime event for our students. Want to congratulate the promoting class of 2024. I don't know if you guys log in the virtual world to board meetings, but I want it noted how proud we are of you and our best wishes in high school. And I know you're not going to forget us. Piggybacking off of what Trustee Chang mentioned regarding our K-pop experience, I just want to give a huge thank you to the K-pop team for your flexibility and following a superintendent who needed to have a team represent Buena Park. It was an amazing experience, as Trustee Chung mentioned, collaborating with a neighboring district. It felt really good to have fun in the name of PD. And what we learned was, I learned about the Korean culture was a lot of the background on where K-pop is from and how much traction it has gotten into the international world. And right here in Buena Park, how much we have in terms of a wealth of resources that we can tap into to leverage an experience for those who will connect, but also learn about a very diverse and rich culture that make up a part of Buena Park. So thank you for being immersed in the pop culture of song and dance and exploring Korean trendy foods and learning about the resources we have here. And we have over 7,400 views. If you're curious, please follow me at Julian Lee BPSD on Twitter. And you too get to experience a little bit of what we experienced on that day. I do want to shout out loudly as I can that we have Read With Me at Bellis Park beginning this Wednesday at 1 o'clock. And it continues weekly, I believe, except for one pause on a Wednesday. Other than that, you can find Mrs. Milch there with a lot of community services, the buzz in the community, Chevrolet that comes and offers food, a lot of volunteers that come and students that come back to help serve. And I think that's the amazing part about such an organically grown program led by Mrs. Milch is that that was my first experience actually coming last year to Buena Park to experience. And I remember thinking clearly in my head, who does this during their summer break? And more I find out about it, more and more I realize that it brings people together for the simple joy of reading and how many kids look forward to it in the summer to come to the park to spend with their teacher. With that, I do want to end my update just thanking the governing board, a full year of completion as a new superintendent. I want to thank you for your support, your guidance. I've gotten to know you individually, your passions around the district. And I want to say that rarely do you get the synergy of a team. And when you meet and experience something good, you know when it's good. And I want to say together collaboratively, we make a mighty force. And I am so honored to be a part of this governance team. To Executive Cabinet, thank you so much for putting up with me for that for the full year. Yvette Cantu, Dr. Cantu, I can't even begin to tell you how much support I received from day one all the way to now. And I am going to continue to, if you don't mind, have you on speed dial, just for maybe even sometimes to get your calmness and the words of wisdom that I may need to be grounded in this work. But with cabinet just by my side alongside made me feel as though that I had the weight of the world on my shoulders wasn't as heavy, knowing that was shared. With the team out there and the amazing staff, I just want to thank you. I know as a district, we have a charge, and I know in our specific specialized roles, sometimes it is within the weeds. And I will hope that as we take this journey together, that we can work towards a vision of a district that brings not only a wealth of resources for the students greatly in need, but continue with that rigor and instruction to provide the best we can possibly provide. So with that, that concludes my superintendent's report.
You guys are all making me tear up today. What's up with that? Next up, we have our programs and reports, which we do not have any programs or reports today. So we'll move to item number 9, hearing session. Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP. Pursuant to Education Code Section 52062B1, the governing board is required to hold a public hearing session for the Local Control Accountability Plan, LCAP, that shall be held at the same meeting as the budget public hearing. Education Code 52062B2 specifies that the LCAP public hearing shall be held at a separate earlier board meeting prior to the board adoption of the LCAP. The LCAP public hearing and LCAP adoption cannot be held on the same day. A copy of the draft 2024-2025 Winter Park School District Local Control Accountability Plan and the 2024 annual update to the 2023-2024 LCAP is attached and also available for viewing on the district's website, www.bpsd.us. Do we have anyone? Okay, okay. Hearing session closed. We will move on to the next hearing session, 2024-2025 Winter Park School District Budget Proposed. Pursuant to Education Code Section 42127, the governing board is required to advertise, hold a public session, approve, and adopt an annual budget for the upcoming fiscal year on or before July 1st. A copy of the draft 2024-2025 Winter Park School District Budget Proposed is attached and is also available for viewing on the district's website, bpsd.us. You have a presentation for her. So we'll have a presentation for, do we close the hearing session though? So I don't think we have any speakers, so we will close the hearing session, but there will be a presentation for budget later on. Last, we have our general hearing session. The audience members may request to address the board on an item on or off the agenda per board bylaw 9323. Individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes to address the governing board on each agenda or non-agenda item. The board limits the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. The total time allowed for public comment shall be 30 minutes. Audience members wishing to address the board during the hearing session of the agenda should fill out a request to address the governing board form and turn it into the executive assistant prior to the board holding the hearing session. Do we have any comments or? Okay. Hearing session is closed, so we will move on to our action. We'll do the presentations first. Oh, before we do the item? Okay, sure. So we will do the Winter Park School District Budget Proposed. The LCAP. Oh, the LCAP first? Okay. We'll start with the LCAP. Okay, thank you.
All right. Here to present for us tonight, we have Sari Huang, Director of Educational Programs.
Good evening, Board President Maude, members of the governing board, Superintendent Dr. Lee, Cabinet, and our wonderful guests here tonight. Tonight, we are presenting the annual update to the 2023 and 24 LCAP in conjunction with presenting the 2024 and 2027 LCAP plan. The new 3-year LCAP cycle starts next school year, and local educational agencies are required to develop, adopt, and annually update a 3-year LCAP using a template adopted by the State Board of Education. This LCAP is very near and dear to many of us as we worked many long days and nights, particularly in partnership with our fiscal department. So our Ed Services Division had many wonderful meetings and support from our fiscal department, particularly our Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Sandy Petit, and Fiscal Director, Neelam Kakar. So we want to thank them for their collaborative effort with Ed Services Division. Next slide, please. So the LCAP committee plays a crucial role in ensuring that the district's resources are used strategically to support the success of all students. The development of our plan was a collaborative effort and represents input from many members of our learning community who work together as part of our district's LCAP steering committee, which met 4 times from November through March of this school year. So we'd like to extend our thank you and acknowledgement to the commitment and time that was dedicated by our steering committee members, which included parents that represented our diverse student populations, our bargaining unit representatives, our site and district staff administration, our community members, and also our North Orange County SELPA director as well. So together during our LCAP steering committee, we analyzed the baseline data, gave each other a clear perspective of where we're going as a district and where we like to go as a district, and also had a roadmap of where we would like to go with the suggestions brought to us by our educational partners. In addition to that, this plan is then sent to OCDE for review and feedback to ensure full compliance. Next slide. So to briefly give you an overview of what the LCAP process looks like. From the timeline of November and March, as I mentioned, we had our educational partners gather together and have our LCAP steering committee meeting. From there, data analysis occurred and recommendations were given. Along that timeline, we also presented our board with our mid-year LCAP report. During the timeline of March and May, we look at the recommendations that were given to us by our LCAP steering committee. And from there, we set our goals and actions and services and work closely with our fiscal department to look at what the budget allocations will look like. And then now we are in June where we are having our hearing sessions now, and we'll go into approval at our next board meeting. And from there, as we look into next school year, from our July to November timeline, we will be implementing and then also monitoring where we're at in terms of progress of meeting our goals. Next slide, please. So just as a quick overview, as I mentioned, we will be going over the annual update for the 2023-24 LCAP, and then along with that, presenting you a new LCAP cycle for the next 3 years. So this is a one-time transitional standalone LCAP annual update for this school year, and starting next school year for the 3-year cycle, our annual update will be embedded into our annual update for you. Next slide, please. So we're going to be looking at our 2023-2024 LCAP and sharing with you an annual update. And I'll be sharing the successes and challenges of our 3-year LCAP goals that we've had the past 3 years. And from there, I'll share where our successes are and where our challenges lie. And from there, where we want to provide additional support to improve in those areas. Next slide, please. So as we looked at our past or this school year's goals, we had 3 goals. And the first goal focused on increasing student achievement in ELA, math, and language proficiency. And as we have implemented and executed all those action items that we have placed in goal 1, some of the areas of successes I would like to highlight here are the implementation of our cognitively guided instruction approach and professional development. In addition to that, our 2022-2023 school year, our homeless and foster youth subgroups met criteria for differentiated assistance. But I'm happy to say that with improvements in the data, that they're no longer in DA for this school year. Some of the challenges that we see here, as we're still looking at our CASP scores in ELA and math, we do still see that there is a need for intensive support for our students. Next slide, please. Goal 2 focused on creating and maintaining positive, safe, and culturally responsive learning environments where we will see high levels of attendance and student engagement. As we reflect and look at the successes, we did get some positive feedback from our spring LCAP survey. Our parents, our staff, and students, and the data that we saw in the survey results of having access to counselors, we did see that there was an increase in terms of parents agreeing that students have access to counseling services. We saw an increase of 21.9%, staff an increase of 6.7%, and students also agreeing that they have increased access to counselors of 4.5%. In terms of the challenges that we faced, thankfully with our homeless and foster youth group not being DA status, our African American subgroups did meet the state differentiated assistance eligibility in the criteria of suspensions and chronic absenteeism. So that is something that we have included to target in our next LCAP cycle. Next slide, please. Goal 3 focused on increasing authentic parent and pupil engagement and to supporting our academic achievement and social emotional development. In terms of the successes, we did see high levels of engagement from our parents and community partners through training, through workshops. So, for example, we had Parent University that was held here at the district office with many of our parents engaging in that. But in addition to that, many of our school sites held CGI nights, literacy nights. So we did see a huge success in really inviting our families to participate in the learning of our students. And as we see challenges, we still need improvement in our attendance and reducing chronic absenteeism, as also highlighted in specific subgroups. So that's something that we will look into as we look at the next 3-year LCAP cycle to focus on. Next slide. So my previous slides go over the annual update for the 2023-2024 school year, and I will be going into our new 3-year LCAP cycle, which will start next school year. And I would just like to note that as we are looking at the different metrics, at the different data points in the upcoming slides that I'll be sharing, please note that those are our baseline data as we are starting a new 3-year cycle. So as we're planning moving forward, we looked at the metrics with the LCAP steering committee to see where we are at now and where we want to be in 3 years. All right, next slide. So just to go over the required sections of the LCAP template, many of it will look very familiar to you, although there were changes that I will highlight in the next slide. Of course, there's that plan summary section. Of course, the engagement of our educational partners is highlighted there. We're looking at the goals and actions, and within the goals and actions, we're looking at how we are going to increase and improve services for unduplicated students. And then also that goes into our action tables that includes our budget allocation. As we look at the next slide, this shows the overview of changes in the LCAP provided to us by the state. So as we're looking at the new 3-year cycle and looking at the new template, there's really a focus on the accountability of effectiveness. So as we reflect each year and as we meet as educational partners each year, we will be looking at where are we meeting the action items. And if not, the state is asking us that we are to change the action so that we can go towards meeting that goal. The next piece is there is a big focus on student groups, not particularly just student groups overall, but looking at student groups within schools as well too. So as we are building out our action plans and looking at our goals, there was specific focus on how we are going to target to provide further support for our specific student groups. In addition to that, one big item that would be added is the inclusion of our LTELs, our long-term English learners. And as we look at action items, we'll be looking at how to support our students to become reclassified. In addition to that, in the green, although the equity multiplier do not apply to our school district, the technical assistance or differentiated assistance do apply to us. So these are the main changes for our new LCAP template. All right, so for our new 3-year LCAP cycle, we decided to go with 4 goals. You're probably familiar with us having 3 goals for the past many years, but we decided to go with 4 goals as we wanted to really focus on how we are going to meet our individual students, but also looking at how each goal supports one another. So with goal 1, we are still remaining where we will be focusing on academic achievement in our core subjects of ELA, math, and language proficiency. And this is so that we will be using evidence-based instruction tailored to increase cognitive engagement for all students while diminishing disparities among subgroups. So we looked at our multilingual, multicultural learners. We looked at our low-income students, students with disabilities, and foster youth. Next slide, please. So once again, I do want to reiterate that the data that we're looking at is our baseline data. And as you can see here, these are overall baseline data based on the 2023 CAF scores. So if we see here for ELA, we do see that our overall ELA score for our 3rd through 8th grade student was at an orange performance level. When we're looking at math, we have an overall of performance level of yellow. And when we're looking at our LPAC scores, our English learner progress, we see that we are in the performance level of green. So as we looked at how we are going to measure growth or how we are going to meet the goal, we have placed the desired outcome for us to increase by 3 points so that we can increase our performance level. Next slide, please. So as I shared earlier, there is a big emphasis on looking at our subgroups. And as we also did with our LCAP steering committee, I talked about we need to dig deeper or dive deeper into our data. And this next slide shows that where we're looking at our specific subgroups in ELA and in math in our CASP assessment. And as you see here, I know that there is a negative there, but this is not saying that they have decreased by those points, but it's showing that there are a negative 26 to meeting distance from standards. So if you see the graph over here, it's kind of the opposite way going. It's because that where it's starting from is where we want to be at to meet grade level standards. So as you can see here, we do see some specific subgroups, particularly with our students with disabilities and our homeless students that we do see in the red there. And then also for CASP, although we've seen some increases, we do still see in specific subgroups the need for us to provide more intensive intervention. Looking at our LPAC or English learner progress, and this is broken down into level, we do see that 45.4% of our students or English learners are progressing at least 1 LP level. Just to explain that the gray bar for our foster youth in both areas, they do not get a performance color due to it being less or fewer than 30 students. So they do not give us a performance color unless it's more than 30 students. Next slide. So this is something that we've shared at our mid-year LCAP presentation. This is our Diagnostic 2 iReady scores in reading and math, and it is shared here in specifics by subgroups as well too. Although by grade level, we are seeing the increase or of scores for each of our grade levels, we do want to particularly focus on each of the subgroups as we see needs in our CASP data. Next slide. So after looking at our goal 1 metrics and also looking at what our goal is for goal 1, we identified some action items for our students. The first is to have readily available base materials for our students. We wanted to increase or strengthen the MTS's tiered intervention system and supports that includes specifically tier 2 and 3 interventions as specified in our care roadmap. and also ensuring that teachers have high quality professional development in the areas of core academic support, as you see here, whether it's reading and writing workshop, CGI, PLCs, or Tier 3 reading intervention. And you'll probably see there's some action items that look familiar, such as our Ready diagnostic that we utilize so that we can see where our students are 3 times a year, and also looking at with the LTEL emphasis of supplemental support for our English language learners. Next slide. So jumping into goal 2, we looked at goal 2 to see how we are going to support goal 1 for us to meet goal 1. So as we look at goal 2, it is highly qualified staff will deliver standards-based instruction and support district systems designed to increase cognitive engagement for all students, especially those with unique needs. And we're going to provide that within well-maintained facilities and provide a positive learning environment. So L2 is looking at how we are going to support students to meet goal 1. So looking at the next slide, we looked at facilities, staffing, and materials. We saw that our facilities were in 100% in good repair based on our dashboard. 98% of our staff are fully credentialed. The additional 2% are of staff that are on waivers. And then 100% of students have access to standards aligned instructional materials based on our Williams report. The next set of data is on our survey results. As we looked at, again, at our baseline data, we looked at our LCAP survey for PD effectiveness in ELA, ELD, math, and technology integration. So as you can see here, 83% of staff state that professional learning opportunities in ELA and ELD have been useful. 92% of staff in math, PD and math have been useful for their practice. And 78% of staff state that learning in integrated technology was useful. Now, after looking at those metrics and seeing what our goal is for goal 2, our action items focused on building a support team that aims to deliver targeted intervention for all students, including our unduplicated students. So this initiative involves smaller class sizes, additional support staff such as kinder IAs, PE staff to support targeted instruction and support. And additionally, instructional support and coaching will enhance Tier 1 instruction across all elementary sites. In addition to that, you'll see some action items of transportation services along with innovative technology practices as well too, to support meeting goal 2. Now, looking at goal 3, this is to increase student outcomes through impactful instruction of course subjects and expand college and career pathway programs. So with this goal, we wanted to really focus on that CTE passion program pathway for our students and looking at subjects beyond ELA, math, and English language development. So as we look at the next slide, we looked at our physical fitness test participation data along with our California science test data. So with 5th grade, as the physical fitness test is administered to our 5th and 7th graders only, we see that overall there was 87% of our 5th graders participating and 97% of our 7th graders participating. And of course, our goal or desired outcome is to increase that next school year and beyond. And as we look at CAST, we had 28.08% of students meet or exceed standards for science. And once again, this is our base data that we are looking at to improve in the next 3 years. Okay, the next data point is also looking at our LCAP surveys to look at our programs and electives offerings. So overall, Buena Park School District strives to have a strong passion program through different programs and CTE and after-school offerings. So particularly looking at our middle school student survey results indicate that 91% of students state that they have access to programs and services such as after-school sports. 94% state that their school offers elective classes to help explore career and interests. And 96% of students state that their school provides opportunities to take honors and advanced courses. Next slide shows LCAP survey data on passion programs, or CTE. According to our LCAP parent survey results show that 71% of parents believe that they're provided adequate information about passion programs. And then based on our VAPA parent survey indicates that 85% of parents feel that their school provides opportunities for involvement in visual and performing arts. I did add here a metric on our GATE Scholar Advance. For the 24-25 school year, we had 24 students identified. And as our goal, or looking at our desired outcome, is to, of course, increase that as well. So as we look at the next slide, we're looking at our goal 3 actions to meet our goal 3. Just to highlight a few, we do want each site to have a well-defined and articulated school focus or passion program. So our action item will focus on that. In addition to that, there will be district support of our passion programs, particularly looking into enhancing and continuing our current passion programs, whether it is in our IB, STEM, VAPA, and college career pathways and readiness. And we look to continue enhancing our GATE Scholar program and also exploring other measures of identifying students for GATE. And we did, just to point another one out there, of our program specialists will also continue at our sites to really support the need of our CTE pathways. All right, looking at our last goal is goal 4, and this is to promote emotional engagement and connectedness among students, families, and staff by fostering safe and culturally responsive learning environments. So really looking at goal 4, this is one goal that we worked particularly hard on to make sure that we can meet this goal. The next slide shows data on attendance. So we look at the attendance data, and this one particularly focuses on August to March, as shown in Aries. You see that we have an overall of 94% of students in attendance. Based on our dashboard data, we have 24.7% of students who were chronically absent and 2.8% of students that were suspended at least one day based on our 2023 dashboard data. So looking at this, we're looking at the school helping to meet and increase our attendance and to decrease our chronic absenteeism and suspensions. The next set of data shows survey data on school connectedness and engagement. We're looking at our SEL data survey results here. We focused on looking at regulating how well students regulate their emotions, and also how students feel supported by relationships with friends, family, and adults at school. So we're looking at grade spans of 3 to 5th and 6 to 8, and you can see similar outcomes for each topic here. So based on the LCAP students survey also indicates that 89% of teachers and adults make them feel welcome at school. 82% of teachers encourage students to share stories and experience from their family or culture. And 96% of students say that teachers believe the students can do well in school. So we see here that our teachers are really working to build relationships with their students. Our next slide shows additional survey results here. When it comes to counseling services, as I mentioned in the annual update, we did see increases in parents, staff, or students feeling that they have access to counseling. Also in our parent survey, 82% of parents believe they have a say in decision-making at school, while 72% believe they do at the district level. And looking at community building, 93% of parents say that there are someone at school they can talk to in their preferred language. And 96% say that they receive documents in their preferred language, and 87% feel the school built strong partnerships with families. The next slide is also going into further survey results regarding school climate. So 92% of staff say they have adequate safety measures in place. And the parents say that there are 90% safety measures are in place, and 81% have see behavior concerns are dealt with fairly at school, and 95% say their child or children are welcomed at school, and 91% of the parents feeling the same. So looking at those metrics and meeting, hoping to meet goal 4, the actions that we focused on were, first of all, in terms of student engagement, attendance, and suspension. We have actions items of student and community service department, our student engagement and outreach clerks, our CEOCs, even looking at our middle school attendance clerks that mainly focus on improving our students' attendance and decreasing chronic absenteeism. In addition to that, we'll be continuing our mental health support and health services as our survey results shows the need of having or continuing counseling, access to counseling services. We'll continue with our parent workshops and even further enhance that piece as well. And we also included here a positive schooling climate, and not only that, but making sure that our campuses are welcoming for our students and families. So with that being said, those are our 4 LCAP goals for the next 3 years. Like I shared, it is very close to our ed services and fiscal team, and we are really focused in meeting our goals that we've set for the next 3 years. So this slide just shows our resources. We worked in collaboration with our California Department of Education, OCDE, and it shows here all the different data sources that we utilized. So that concludes my LCAP presentation. Are there any questions?
I have a comment, I guess, and some clarifying points, but thank you. I think it's overwhelming to look at a lot of things at once. And so the LCAP does a really good job, I think, of targeting a lot of different things. But I think our committee and our people have done a great job of identifying, I think, things that we focus on. Data, of course, but the experiences, attendance, and culture. And I think that's really good that we highlighted those things. And I know we can't do everything at once. I know we're very competitive and we think we could do all, but just a clarification on data, because you look at colors, sometimes it could be colorblind because colors get you scared, red being bad and all that. But data meaning that orange doesn't necessarily mean that, like, we maintained growth. There's no decline in ELA, whereas in math, we increased our growth, and not necessarily saying that we're just all bad because it's red or orange means like we didn't do well. I mean, there's a lot of room to grow. We're growing, or at least maintaining. And so I just want to throw that, is that correct, how to read that? Just if we're away from standard means we haven't all got proficiency yet, but
Yes.
we're not like bad. Just want to clarify that.
Yes, if we're looking at the, particularly when we're looking at the overall data, on slide 13, we do see the overall CAST ELA data where we're at orange, but you do see there that we did maintain, right? And then like you mentioned for math, although we're at yellow performance level, we did see an increase in the points. So yes, we want to increase each year as we're setting that goal of increasing at least 3 points annually so that we can move up a performance level. So that's the same in terms of looking at the performance level for the subgroups, but also being mindful that, again, this year is a baseline data that we're looking at to improve.
Which is interesting because often we focus on CGI this year. Everyone presented and they put CGI. So math, we grew. And I think readers, writers, workshops, all good. I know we're going to grow in ELA, but you can't always grow everything all the time, which I know we want to, but I think I like to point that out only because I don't know, because sometimes it's been a while since we looked at the CAST data that way.
Yes.
And then I liked the fact that the survey shows data regarding our passion and our experiences, because I think we do focus on that a lot this past year because of what we came out of, right? Pandemic led to not many things. So I think our board, we all talk about on the side sometimes that we did not worry about data as much. Not to say we don't care, obviously we care, but experiences and the data showing that over 90% of people feeling confident in our CTE, our passion programs, our feelings of safety. And I think the committee or this presentation shows a lot of the focuses that we have emphasized seems to have been a good result. So I appreciate that. And attendance being also important, not just for declining enrollment, but for funding in general and so forth. So I thought overall, it could look daunting and it doesn't always have to look amazing, greens and, all positive numbers always, but, the place you start gives you more opportunity to grow. And I think that's where we are. And I think that's a good point to make. I think your goals that our committee has put there, I appreciate you extending to 4 goals because, again, we don't satisfy with just 3. Just want to make those comments. I think a lot of energy is put in. I thank you for the team. Everyone here is so important. Everyone, I'm glad they're here. And, this is the team that does it all right. And so just want to make that comment out there because I think sometimes we look at data as old school of like, we need 80%, 90% means A and B and C, but that's not where we're in anymore because some people still think that from a long time ago. So I thought that was good and I appreciate all the energy. So that's my comments. Thank you.
Yes, I also wanted to make a comment. I'm glad to see the action items that you identified that shows what we need to improve on and how you're going to do that. So thank you for that.
Anyone else have anything? I just have 3 kind of like mini questions. So just when we're looking at the iReady, are we seeing that it's still a good indicator for CASP, or is it getting farther and farther from
Yeah.
reflecting like our, I don't know.
Yeah, I know. As we look at the iReady data, because we're looking at the positive growth, right? As we're looking at the CASP, as we talk to iReady, they do show us a correlation between what we see in CASP and what we see in iReady. So I think as we continue on, because we need to have a benchmark to see on the way where our students are progressing, right? So although we don't see clear or exact alignment of where we're seeing increases in iReady and then increases in CASP, since it's a one-time test, right? We do see specific skill areas that we need to focus on. Yeah.
Is that what most districts are using? Are they still all using iReady?
Yeah, we do see a lot of, and as we're making calls to OCDE, we do see that many districts are
wondering.
still using iReady.
Okay, I'm wondering
Yeah.
if people are changing. Okay, my other point was, wanted to ask about the PE, the physical education. We had 87%, I think, that I saw here, participation in.
Yes.
Yes, 87%. So is there a way that are parents opting out, or what's the reason for not?
Yeah, we're not seeing too many students opting out, but it could be various reasons of why students have not participated, whether it's health or whatnot. But that's definitely something that we want to look at increasing for our students.
Just wondering. And then my last one, for goal 2 for the facilities, I just feel because we're looking to do a bond measure. Are we really 100% in good repair, and what does good repair mean?
It's based on our FIT report that our maintenance department conducts annually. So that's something that's reported in our dashboard to measure if it's in good repair. So I know, Mike, you'll probably know further about it, but it's a checklist to my understanding.
Structure wise, is that all we're looking at? I just want. Okay. Basics. Okay, so we're not like talking that we're like 100%, don't need anything. I'm like, because we do. Yeah.
We hit all the features, whether it's kudos to Michael Steve, who had a hard time reading to forward there. Done with the room, and passing Williams inspection there.
Okay. Okay, that was it for me. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
President Ahmad, with the PFT data, is that something that you would like me to look into further to see if there are any specific students that opted out or specific reasons? As I wasn't able to really give you.
Just wondering, are we doing it in a short period that like students are not able to, or were they, I just wondered why the number wasn't
Okay.
higher. Yeah, I mean, if we could know a reason, that would be great. But,
Okay, I can include the timeline and some additional details as.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anyone have anything else? Very good. The update is, for the outcome.
If we moved it to March due to the second. I read. Completed and needing type it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And so now we'll have the presentation for the district budget, the
Yes.
proposed budget. Thank
We
you.
have our Chief Financial Officer, Sandy Potteet, who will present for us tonight.
Good evening, President Ahmad and Governing Board Trustees, Superintendent, Executive Cabinet, staff, and guests that are here tonight. It's my pleasure to present to you the 24-25 proposed budget. Go to the next slide. Want to give you an update on the May revision from the governor. The revenue gap is greater than what they estimated in January for the 22-23, which is almost 2 years ago, but we are still looking at that data. The state does have a budget deficit for 24-25 and 25-26, as well as the current year of 23-24. The revenue has fallen short. For what that reflects on K-12 or K-14 education, no cuts to us at this time programmatically. They're proposing at the state level many government cuts in operations, but not anything programmatic cuts to education. There are some risks in this budget. We don't have a budget yet, so we'll continue to monitor that. We can go to the next slide. In reference to the 22-23 revenue being so short, I wanted to take just a moment to talk about what we, back in January, we talked about the maneuver. The governor was proposing this off the books paper maneuver. And he has now since seen the light that that's not the way it should happen. And I wanted to share this graph. If we were to have done the maneuver at the state level, what it does is that the funding for the future years starts at a lower base. And that's why everybody was so concerned about the maneuver, is because we lost money in the future because we weren't starting at the correct point for measurement. And so we just wanted to show how graphically what that would look like if we were not following the Prop 98 guarantee. We can go to the next slide. I'll share a few pieces about the Prop 98. They did strike a deal. CTA did question it. There was a deal struck with the governor. They are including $6.2 billion in funding for 22-23. So there is an agreement on the new base for that year of what was funded, and that impacts us in future years in a positive way. What the deal did though for 23-24 is that there's a proposal that we would need to suspend Prop 98. When they suspend Prop 98, that allows us to have a maintenance factor where the state would owe us for any additional funds at a future point, and it is recorded as such. So it's not just a figment of at some point it might happen. It's actually recorded on how much is owed. The proposal includes withdrawing from the Prop 98 reserve to maintain programs for 23-24. And there is budget deferrals that have been proposed. And so we anticipate having possibly a budget deferral even in the current year, meaning when we receive our cash, we still are going to be funded on the total amount. It's a cash flow issue. Basically, they'll take some money that we were owed in June, and they'll pay that money to us in July. So they're just going to cross it over the line between one fiscal year to another, but they are proposing to do that as part of this Prop 98 deal. We could go to the next slide. As far as new programs for this upcoming 24-25, the only real program that affected us was the instructional continuity proposal, and the governor's proposed to delay that to 25-26. So we don't have any new programs. If we could go to the next slide. The next steps at the state level. So the legislature has already agreed to a joint proposal between the Senate and Assembly. And so we anticipate they'll have that approved, their budget approved by June 15th, which is this Saturday. So there's two ways it could go. It could either be that they just present their proposal where it is on June 15th, and we'll see trailer bills and they'll meet with the governor after June 15th to negotiate, or they may try to negotiate with the governor before June 15th and put a budget proposal forward to the governor that has more definitive language. Either way, it'll go to the governor for approval by June 30th at the state level. for us, we're moving forward. We have to have a budget in place by July 1st. So today is our hearing, and we anticipate adopting our budget at our June 24th meeting. Next slide. So the calendar for us on a budget is we present and adopt in June. In August, based on what happens at the state level, we would have a 45-day revision if there's any specific changes. In September, we'll take the final look at the prior year, 23-24. In December of this year, we'll look at first interim. We'll do an update of this budget. And then in March, we'll do a second update to this budget. Go to the next slide. I don't prepare a budget in a silo by myself. This requires a team, and our fiscal director, Neelam Kakar, I could not do this without her. She does the details in this. So thank you. Next slide. Our budget development is, we look at three components. It's building blocks. We start with our enrollment projections, which drives both our revenue and then also our expenditure assumptions. We could go to the next slide. Our enrollment, we are projected to decline 128 students for 24-25. So from 16-17 all the way to 26-27, based on our current trajectory of rolling students from year to year, we will have lost approximately 1,300 students. So we are projected to be at 3,707 for the fall. And really that's what we're seeing is the 8th grade classes graduating is large. The kindergarten and TK classes that are coming in are just smaller size. So this is just looking at year over year students as they progress across the grade levels where we're landing. We could go to the next slide. So we're funded on an attendance model. So we take that enrollment and then we need to estimate what the attendance is. And the state provides us, we can either be funded on current year ADA, prior year ADA, or the average of the 3 most recent prior years, which is where we are because we are declining enrollment. So that gives us the best number. And we get to change that every year based on reality. So if it changes mid-year and our actuals come in better, it'll be what they'll we recertify throughout the year. And at the very end of the year, it'll be based on actual, what is the best number for us to be funded on. We can go to the next slide. So we wanted to look at what is the difference between what we're funded at, which is in the green, versus our CBEDS or information day that's in October, what that enrollment number is, and what our actual average daily attendance is in red. And you'll see the red and green were farther apart, and they're now getting quite close together. So those protections that we got from the COVID years that gave us that extra funding are falling off as we're getting farther away from that. So we don't have those guarantees. So we're coming much closer together between what's actually funded and our ADA for the year. And go on to the next slide. The next big piece of what happens in our budget as far as revenue has to do with our COLA. And I just wanted to share how much it fluctuates. So a year ago in June of 23, we were projecting a 3.94% increase to cost of living. Reality is it's only being it's 1.07 is the actual rate, and it's currently intended to be funded 100% of that rate. So we will, but it is only 1.07%. So a significant decrease, and you'll see over the next 2 years how it has fluctuated. So it's all an estimate until it becomes the April of the spring prior to the budget adoption. Go to the next slide. We look at the planning factors for the budget. We have a COLA estimates for the next 3 years, which I had just shared. We have our enrollment that's included here, our projected ADA, and then what our funded ADA is, which we are still continuing to be funded on 3 prior year average over the next 3 years. We have here our unrestricted lottery, which is maintaining at $177 per student. Restricted lottery is at $72 per student. CalSTRS is remaining solid at 19.10%. CalPERS employer rate is at 27.05 this year. Still expects to increase about 0.5% for the next 2 years. Social Security, Medicare, unemployment, and workers' comp are all remaining the same that they have for the last several years. We can go to the next slide. We are getting a 1.07% increase in COLA, but we are declining in enrollment. And when we add those two components together, when we look at what it does to the district's revenue source, on our base revenue, we are actually losing over $2 million in revenue. So we have a $2 million revenue drop, which is a 5.31% less base revenue than what we would had. So even though there's an increase in the per student amount, it's not enough to offset our declining enrollment. So we will anticipate having a significantly less budget for next year. We can go to the next slide. So we do anticipate our total revenues of being 77.7 million. 69% of that comes from the local control funding formula. Our federal revenues are approximately 4% of the budget. Our state revenues are at 18% of the budget, and our other local revenues are at 9%. Our federal is down as we have finished all of the ESSER funds. There's very little of that. It all ends mostly this June or September. So those funds have ended, and so we're back to just our normal ongoing funding sources. You can look at the next slide, please. When we look at our overall district budget, our certificated salaries are a total of 31.4 million in both unrestricted and restricted funds combined. Our classified salaries are 10.5 million. Our employee benefits are a total of 22.7 million. Our supplies are just over 4 million. Our services are projected at 13.2 million. Our capital outlay is just over 57,000. Our other outgo is 1.8 million, and we have indirect costs of 282,000 being charged to other programs. So our total expenditure budget is 83.6 million. You can go to the next slide. We look at our proposed expenditures as graphically to see where we stand. Our personnel costs are 83% of our unrestricted budget. Supplies and services are only 15%, and other outgo is only 2%. Our restricted expenditures are 66% go to personnel costs, 27% for supplies and services, and 7% for other outgo. Go to the next slide. When you look at our total revenues of 77.6%, and you look at our total expenditures of 83.6, we are deficit spending by 5.9 million in both restricted and unrestricted combined. When you look at what we then contribute from the unrestricted side to the restricted side, an additional 11.4 million, that being a combination of what we are required to transfer over to cover our special ed program and our restricted maintenance mandatory contribution. So that is 11.4 million that gets transferred over. When we go to the next slide, what happens to our balance is that we are deficit spending by 2.5 million on the unrestricted side, 3.3 million on the restricted side, which on the restricted side, we typically, if you're deficit spending, that's because you've got carryover balances. So you've had a program that had for multiple years, you've got money to spend in a future year, and that's where you would have a deficit spending on the restricted side, because that is very balanced. It has to be revenues match expenditures for each program, or you're carrying forward a specific balance for a specific purpose. On the unrestricted side, that is where our expenses are just outpacing our revenues, and we need to look at what we can do for that. So when we add that to our beginning balance, it leaves us with an 18.4 million unrestricted balance, a 16.2 million restricted balance, for a total balance of $34.7 million. We go to the next slide. When we look at what that ending fund balance is comprised of, we have 55,000 in revolving cash. We have 25,000 in stores. Our restricted balance is 16.2 million. We've committed 13 million of our unrestricted to cover such programs as textbook adoptions, our other post-employment benefit reserve, a technology reserve, an Affordable Care Act reserve. We have a reserve in excess of the state minimum, so that's an additional 1.5%. We have our future program needs and a declining enrollment mitigation line. Our other assignments are 2.8 million, which include our Kid Connection Reserve, a state preschool reserve, and a 2.5 million reserve capacity. Our reserve for economic uncertainties, the required 3% reserve is 2.5 million. We could go to the next slide. We are required by Proposition 2 to declare why we have an ending balance greater than 3%. There are a variety of reasons why 3% is not an adequate reserve. STRS and PERS go up and down. As we've seen, the COLA projections don't come out to where we are. So we have significant revenue volatility. And as well for cash flow purposes to have an ending balance. So this is just a mandatory slide that we're required to explain why it's prudent to have more than 3% in your reserve. We could go to the next slide. When we take the data from this year, which is in the red section here for 24-25, and we project out what we look at, what our budget looks like in 25-26 in green and in 26-27 in blue. What we'll see is our revenues for 25-26 are continuing to drop. We're down to 55.7 million on the unrestricted side and just over 21 million on the restricted side for total revenues of 76.7 million. Our expenditures for 25-26 are 48.5 million unrestricted and 33.9 for restricted. We then again have those contributions to the other two restricted maintenance and special ed, which brings us to a deficit of spending of 4.3 million on the unrestricted side in 25-26, and a restricted deficit spending of 1.5. When you add that to the beginning balances that we have brought forward, we anticipate having an ending balance of 14.1 in 25-26 unrestricted, 14.7 restricted for a total ending balance projection of 28.8 million in 25-26. We go ahead and we look at 26-27. Our unrestricted revenue begins to grow slightly. We're at 55.9 million for unrestricted revenue and 20.9 million in restricted revenue for a total of 76.8 million. Our expenditures on the unrestricted side are just over 49 million. Our restricted expenditures are just 34.1 million for a total expenditures of 83.2. We again have contributions of 11.4 from unrestricted to restricted, leaving us with deficit spending of 4.5 million on the unrestricted side and 1.8 million on the restricted side, leaving us with an ending balance in 26-27 of 9.5 million on the unrestricted side and 12.8 on restricted for a total ending balance of 22.4%. We can go to the next slide. We look at the details of what those ending fund balances are and what those percentages are. So the total budget reserve percentage for this year, 24-25, is starting at 22.1%. 15.6 of that is committed, 6.43 is reserves towards our state cap. As we move to 25-26, our allocations in our committed reserves, the only place we're adjusting there's as the additional 1.5 for excess of state minimum is fluctuating as it is a calculated number. You'll see that our future program needs has dropped from 6.7 to 4.7 million. And our ending balance overall drops to 17.14% as our reserve percentage of total. So our committed reserves are 13.3. Our reserves towards the state cap are down to 3.8. When we get to the third year, the commitments have continued the same. However, future program needs is now gone. We've anticipated it'll be fully spent in order to cover all of the deficit spending over the last 2 years. Our ending balance reserve would be 11.51%. We have just over 3.9% towards the cap, and our committed reserves are down to 7.6%. So that's our ending fund balance for the general fund. These are projections based on the data we have today, but it is what it looks like over this year, the upcoming 24-25 and the next 2 fiscal years. We could go to the next slide. Just a quick recap of the other funds that the district has. We have our Child Development Fund, which is anticipated to begin with 686,000. We'll have revenues of just over 2 million, expenses of 2 million, and it'll end with 752,000. Our cafeteria fund is beginning with $5.1 million. It's anticipated to have revenue of 4.2, expenditures of 4.6, with an ending balance of 4.67. Those are intentional expenditures. That funding source is required to have a spend down plan. The state says we have too much money in the cafeteria plan. So we do need to make capital expenditures to reduce that program ending balance. We have a small amount in our deferred maintenance fund that's just maintaining that it's open with a little bit of interest. It'll end, it's anticipated at $63 next year. Our bond fund is going to be, will begin at 12.7 million for the year. We anticipate interest of 356,000, expenses of over 7 million for an ending balance of 6 million. It'll be right in the middle of the construction project. Remember, this is ending on June 30th and we'll be finishing out a construction project over the summer of 25. So that money will go right into that final project of the Gilbert TKK facility. Fund 25 is our capital facilities fund. It's beginning with 743,000. We anticipate revenues of 263, expenditures of 46,000, an ending balance of $960,000 in capital facilities. Our county school facilities fund has 520,000 to begin with, revenues of only 18,300, and expenditures of just over 530,000. On our final fund is special reserve for capital outlay, our Fund 40. It's beginning with 6.4 million in beginning balance, has revenue of interest of just over $1 million, expenditures of $1.2 million, with an ending balance of 6.2 million. And that is your projected budgets for 24-25. Question?
I have two. I'll start with one.
Uh-huh.
It's on the multi-year projection for, so the way I'm not good at numbers always, but if I had to simplify it, we're deficit spending because our expenditures are bigger than our revenues. This economics 101, I think I get some of that. But we have to lower our expenditures. A lot of it is on our salaries and benefits, correct?
Yes.
So in this projection, are we looking at what the current amount spent? And that's what we're using to project out the 2 years? Or are we also considering, for example, the early retirement that we did? Is that reflected in this projection, or is it just predicting without that, with the current amount, what does it look like if you kept going?
We've already included all of the savings anticipated from the early retirement incentive. So both the payments, what we owe out on that project over the next 5-year payment plan is included, and all of the savings from the positions that we do not need to fill, or the savings due to the new person having a lower salary than the person who retired. All of that has already been included in the 24-25 budget.
So if we had like 14 retirees, which means all of their salaries go off the books, but you're bringing in new employees to replace that, which is starting at a lower base than what those retirees were. So shouldn't our projection of our certificate start lower in the next 2 years than it being higher every year for a certificate? Just, I know you get raises, but
No, because you get step and column every year. So 24-25 already has that drop in gain already in it. To see what you're looking to see, you would start at 23-24 compared to 24-25.
Mm.
You need to look at last year's numbers to this year's to see the drop, the change in salaries. It would have occurred between last year and this coming year in 24-25. That's where that changes. From 24-25 to 25-26, we anticipate approximately just 2 FTE loss. So unfortunately, our children don't leave the district. Our declining enrollment isn't in boxes of 24 or 30 students at one school. So even though we might be declining by 100 students, it doesn't change the staffing necessarily at a school. So we projected what the staffing looks like over the next 3 years. And in 25-26, we anticipate maybe 2 less teaching staff than what we had. And then all of those staff will continue to receive step and column each year. That is all built in. We anticipate another 2 teachers in 26-27, and that is the most we can anticipate until we have more data.
So 1B to that question would be, if our attendance percentage is at what, like 90 some, low 90s, right?
Right, we're in the low
So,
90s right now.
If that
correct.
goes to like 96, that impacts it a little bit positively,
Yes, it would.
right? Okay. So then my second question is how much the bond impact will be in our expenditures? If we do get a bond, does that
It will-
relieve some expenditures?
No, because not in any of this multi-year projection, because the bond is in Fund 21. It's in a whole separate fund. It's not in the general fund, and nothing we pay for in the general fund can move to the bond. As far as you can't put staff, you cannot fund staff in the bond. We don't have any facilities expenses we have here are already on the restricted maintenance side. There might be some things that might move, but it's not going to impact our overall budget. It's not going to provide any savings by passing a bond.
Question 2B, sorry. Our current reserve prediction next year is 22%. And we're predicting in 3 years, it'll go down to 11% overall.
That is
Our
correct.
reserve right now is 22.
That is what we're projected to have at the end of next year is 22%. Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything? I don't have anything. That was very clear. Thank you so much. I appreciated the way that it was presented.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So we will be moving on to our action calendar. We have approval of the 2022, 2023, 23-24, 24-25 Consolidated and Reporting Systems, CARS, Spring Data Collection. It is recommended that the governing board approve the 22-23, 23-24, 24-25 Consolidated Application and Reporting System, CARS, Spring Data Collection. Dr. Lee.
Yes, each year school boards are required to approve the CARS for funding state and federal aid programs. The CARS spring data collection includes reporting on state and federal funding programs and certifying that all state and federal rules and regulations are observed. The use of the funds are reviewed and audited according to the standards set forth by the California Department of Education.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I'll second.
Tron and Ms. Shed, any discussion? With no further discussion, we'll move to approve. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 23-25, resolution to establish temporary interfund transfers of special or restricted fund monies for the fiscal year 24-25. It is recommended that the governing board approve resolution 23-25. Resolution to establish temporary interfund transfers of special or restricted fund monies for the fiscal year 24-25. Dr. Lee.
The governing board may direct that monies held in a fund or account may be temporarily transferred to another fund or account of the district for payment of obligations as authorized by Ed Code Section 42603. And we are seeking approval through this resolution to have authority to do so.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Chong. And this is a roll call. So, Mr. Frutos?
Aye.
Ms. Strata?
Aye.
Ms. Shedd?
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Chong? And I'm an aye. All those in favor, aye. Motion passes 5-0. Okay, so we have resolution 23-26, resolution for the Education Protection Account, Buena Park School District, Orange County, California. It is recommended that the governing board approve resolution 23-26, resolution for the Education Protection Account, Buena Park School District, Orange County, California. Dr. Lee.
Yes, this resolution allows the creation of an education protection account in the state general fund and to receive and disperse the revenues derived from the incremental increases in taxes imposed by Article 13, Section 36F. The governing board of a district shall make the spending determinations with respect to monies received from the education account in an open session of a public meeting of the governing board.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Almost.
Ms. Shedd and Mrs. Strata. And it is a roll call. Mr. Frutos?
Aye.
Mrs. Strata? Aye. Ms. Shedd?
Aye.
Mr. Chong?
Aye.
Now I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Resolution 23-27, authorization of bank accounts and signatures, Buena Park School District. It is recommended that the governing It is recommended that the Buena Park School District Governing Board approve Resolution 23 through 27, authorization of bank accounts and signatures. Dr. Lee.
Yes, due to the updates to the association executive board for our BPMO, our Buena Park Management Organization, updates to the authorized signers on the association bank account are necessary. The bank requires board approval for documents to make any changes, and the changes are effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Chang. Mr. Frutos. And roll call, Mr. Frutos.
Aye.
Ms. Estrada. Aye. Ms. Shedd.
Aye.
Mr. Chang. And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Next, we have approval to award bid number 2406 BPSD Gilbert Pre-K bid 0610224 for bid package number 2 demolition and earthwork for the Gilbert Early Learning Project to Triangle Enterprise. It is recommended that the governing board award bid number 2406 BPSD Gilbert Pre-K bid 0610-2024 for bid package number 2 demolition and earthwork for the Gilbert Early Learning Project to Triangle Enterprise. Dr. Lee.
Yes, upon review of the bids submitted for the Gilbert Pre-K project, the district and TeleQ Construction Management determined that the lowest and most responsible bidder is Triangle Enterprise.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Mr. Frutos.
Second.
Ms. Shedd. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? All those in favor? And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Discussion calendar, a review of a new board policy, first reading. Dr. Lee.
Yes, this policy 0415 reflects the suggested legal updates by the California School Boards Association.
Okay, so we won't be voting on that until next meeting. So moving on to our consent calendar. Unless a trustee has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, all items are approved at one time by the governing board. Mr. Frutos, do you have anything to remove?
Nothing for me.
Ms. Estrada? Ms. Shedd?
No.
Mr. Chong?
Nothing real, just a comment, or is that for after?
No, we could do it before we vote, yeah. There's
I don't
any-
usually point out anything, but I
any
was gonna
discussion,
say,
Yeah,
okay, I'll wait for discussion.
no, well, you could do it now before we vote, yeah.
Just a gift donation from the OCKA Lions. I know that has been highlighted, but it's like $2,000, which is a pretty decent amount. And that's talked about budget. I thought that was very cool that they donated for students in foster and homeless. I thought that was really great. We don't get donations often in our listings. So my previous colleague in a different district board member always pulls it up. We don't have an extensive list to show, but I'd like to throw out, what's the acronym for? Do you know?
Associations.
Cool, but that's very cool that we got donations for something that supports in need, but just want to throw that out there. That's the point.
Thank you. Yes, of course. I think we accept any and all. Let's put it out there. So seeing
Nothing to
that-
remove, sorry.
Nothing to remove. Okay, and I have nothing to remove. So do I have a motion to accept items A through I in the consent calendar?
Motion.
Mr. Frutos? Mrs. Estrada? All those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. Information correspondence, major topics for 23-24 and 24-25.
Yes, there are no changes to the major topics. However, I do want to note that the LCAP data overview is in the month of February. It's a mid-year data report.
Thank you. So moving on to closed session, conferences with Dr. Julian Lee, Superintendent of the Buena Park School District. Liability claimant 637496, BPSD claim 01-2024. Labor Relations, Buena Park Teacher Association, Government Conference Code 54957.6. Labor Relations, California School Employee Association, Chapter 569. Government Conference Code 54957.6. Labor Relations, Non-Represented Management and Confidential Contract Employees, Government Code 54957.6. Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, and Release, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Superintendent. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Motion.
Mr. Frutos?
I'll second.
Ms. Shedd, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. The governing board meeting is called into closed session at 6:28. back on. Governing board meeting, well, I need a motion to reconvene, actually. Do I have a motion? Mrs. Estrada,
Second.
Mr. Chong. Governing board meeting, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. The governing board meeting reconvened at 8:36 PM. Reporting out of closed session. We have our first item, the governing board voted to deny claim 01-2024 and to refer the matters to the district's claim administrator. Motion made by Ms. Shed and seconded by Ms. Estrada and passed with a 5-0 vote. And then next, we have our next item. We have concluded the superintendent's evaluation that reflects an exceedingly positive performance, and it was unanimous. We would like to thank Dr. Lee at this time for what she has brought to this district so far on her first year. And that is it for reporting out of closed session. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
I'll
Mr.
second.
Freckles and Shed, all those in favor?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Motion passes 5-0. The governing board meeting adjourned at 8:37. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.